Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be showing you the secret most important sound in techno. It is the pad. It's these background beautiful melodic pads that really fill out a track, give it some space, and are going to help you take your tracks to the next level. Stick around to the end because I'm going to be giving a lot of gems throughout this video. You're probably going to want to watch it twice to catch everything. To go along this video, I've got a new pack on my website called Ultimate Techno Pads. Links at the top of the description. Definitely don't miss out, guys. It's these 5 awesome pad kits with pads, chords, leads, bass lines, stabs, basically everything. And then you can take these, you get the individual layers, with tails, plus you get the MIDI files and the full Ableton project files. So it's a really, really great thing to learn from. I'll just play you a few of these. Like I said, you get all the individual layers, plus the MIDI, plus the project files, and even some free bonus drum loops too. It's really awesome stuff for techno. Links at the top of the description. Don't miss out, guys, while it's available at this affordable price. I promise if you grab this today, you're going to make the best techno track of your life. This will really help you get where you're trying to get. Thanks for the support, everybody. Enjoy, and let's dive in. Alright, so the thing about these pads is that it's not just the pad. Like, we're going to start with the pad, but I think there's other layers that you need to do to make it all work. So starting with the pad, what you actually are going to want to do is write something where it works really well musically, even without any synths. Like, what I'd recommend doing is start out with literally like Ableton's grand piano like this. Right? And try to write something that's going to work just musically. So if we're looking at this, right, like we're in this key of G minor, where what we're doing is it's really just a basic G minor chord with like a lot of inversion. Because if you take these, see, this will be the normal G minor triad, root, third, fifth, but we put the fifth down an octave and the third up an octave. And what this does is it kind of emphasizes certain notes, and it makes it less obvious because you're hearing a low fifth instead of just like your brain hearing the root note as the lowest note. It makes it a little bit more exciting. And then when you put this up here, now you can make whole melodies up here, right? Like you start, it can become, you can do that. And then here, okay, it's the same deal. This is like fifth, root note, major third, because this would be an A sharp major chord. But see, then you can also play with this, right? And kind of create this melody. So you're going to start with something like that with like a chord progression to it, right? Once you have that, then you can take that MIDI and actually make like a sound for it. So what I'm doing here is I'm using Wavetable. This is what the dry patch sounds like. So what we're doing here is it's actually all just this one plastic shimmer wavetable with a bit of an LFO on it. So wavetable synthesis right off the bat is really good for these pads, and I would really recommend starting with it, because if you just try to work with the same old saw waves and square waves and sine waves over and over, you're going to make a lot of generic sounding tracks. With this, we're able to create something that's exciting and fresh and like a different texture, and you can do so much more with that. So we got that. It's going through a bandpass filter to kind of chill it out a little bit. We got a bunch of unison and then just some echo and reverb. You can see the echo is stereo because we got the left and right ear at 2 different times. And you'll also notice I've got the reverb all the way wet. That's another great thing to do too with pads. Like, don't be afraid to do that because it's just going to give it more texture. You could even, if you really wanted to just create a texture machine out of the reverb without all the like ambience, you can literally just bring the size and decay down and just like bring the dry wet up and watch. It's just reverb that's really wet can add a lot to your sound. So definitely play around with that. But from there, what you're going to need to do, so you have a pad, but see, this is why I say, like, it's not just the pad, because you need to also have kind of like a progression under it, which is right, where this bass can come in. So then you're going to make something like a Reese bass or kind of like a low note, which is then defining like a longer chord progression for the whole track, right? So this one's really simple. It's just 3 chords. It's G minor, A sharp major, D sharp major. So if we're in G minor, this is root note, minor third, minor sixth, right? And then this up here is just gliding up to this same note an octave up. But yeah, so now you can hear this has a lot of musical context and you're able to really tell where you're at. And since it's all in the same key, it's going to create something really beautiful when played together. Now, for the sound on this, there's a few different keys. The first thing is kind of like, you have to understand what you're making this for. You know, typically, if you're making a techno track, you're going to have a kick under this, which is probably going to have a rumble or some kind of a bass line already. So really, you want this to be more about the mid-range and the highs. That's what you're aiming for with this sound. And if you construct it that way, then when you have to cut out some bass later to make it fit with your kick, there's still going to be plenty of the sound there, you know? So the way we're doing this is it's basically this technique with wavetable where you make an instrument rack and you take the same patch, right? So here we've got one saw wave with a ton of unison. And then layer it with the exact same patch, but no unison. And you can see this makes it way fatter because you get that fullness of the unison, but the unison doesn't really have power to it. And that's where the flat saw wave can just really fill that out. And then you put them together and creates this beautiful, really fat bass. From there, there's a little bit of a low pass, so I'll turn off the effects. That's right out of the synth. Then we have this low pass, which you can hear is helping make it a bit darker, but also a bit more kind of like lo-fi sounding, right? If you cut this and then bring the resonance up right there, you can kind of give it a more like lo-fi kind of like texture, and then a little bit of amp is really good for these as well. You just put the dry wet really low, and you see it can just add this nice filter to things. So then once you have these two layers, you know, now you're grounded, but obviously it needs a bit more motion, and that's where these things can come in. Right, so what we're doing to start with is we got this lead. It's following the bass line loosely, right? So it's just the same notes, G and D sharp, an octave apart. It's not doing the A sharp. And the sound is just like this nice kind of punchy FM with 2 oscillators. The secret to this sound, how you get that kind of like strange texture, is something that you can only do in FM, which is basically having the modulator and the carrier be a few octaves apart, and particularly having the modulator be, meaning the oscillator that's doing the FM, having that be way lower than the main oscillator. That's what gives you that texture, because as soon as you put them the same, see, it's a lot more just like a sine wave. So we got that bit of reverb, high pass filter, you know, simple. But again, now this pad has some motion and something kind of grounding the timing of it. Because when we're making techno, right, all this ethereal wash is cool. But obviously you want something to kind of keep you going. And that's where this really shines. And then there's also this lead. So this one, what we're doing is it's kind of like 2 different parts. There's this down here, and then this kind of like melody up top. And that's really where this one shines, is it's that contrast and then how well this fits with everything else. And the way that we're making this work is essentially, it's just following that same chord progression I showed you with the bass, right? It's G, root note, A sharp minor third, D sharp minor sixth. Very simple. And then we're droning this D, which will be the 5th. But then if you hear that, it goes really nicely with those other chords to have that one static voice while the other ones are changing. And then the fact that it's going dun, 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 gives it that rhythm I was talking about. So you start with that, right? And then these melody notes up top are very easy. It's just the 3rd, the minor 3rd, the 5th, and then the 9th. And it's really like call and response. I think that's the key to this, is like a lot of call and response. Like the call, and then the response. And the reason that's such a good response is because it's responding. So it starts on one note, and then the response goes back up to that note. And that's the key, really. If you want that call and response to really feel like glued together, walk back up to the same root note at the end, and I promise it'll all work. This one's just made with analog. It's a saw wave and then a square wave, an octave up, a little bit of a low pass with like an attack on it, so it's nice and right, some vibrato in unison, nice and analog sounding. A little bit of echo, ping pong, some reverb, high pass, and there you go. And that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the ultimate techno pads, links right at the top of the description. Don't miss while it's available. It's super affordable, and this is really, really high quality library. You get all the individual layers for these pads, plus the MIDI files, plus the project files. It's 5 of these kits, plus these free bonus drum loops. You really can't go wrong. This is everything you need to make an awesome techno track today. If you need some new inspiration, or if you're stuck anywhere in between, I promise if you grab this, your tracks are going to go to the next level instantly. Thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.